We're here with Kaitlin Free. She hit and nailed the trifecta at the Kentucky Derby 150 edition a couple of weeks ago, Kaitlin. And now we are in the Preakness week. So far, all excitement. We are just a few days away from what is going to be the edition of the Preakness Stakes. Late news today, Muff, the morning line favorite, is actually not running in the Preakness Stakes. What's your take so far on what do you think the race could be?
First of all, thank you. Talking about the Derby success and couldn't have done it without you. That was awesome that we were able to put that video together. And about 2 weeks ago today was when we actually did it. So it's about the same time frame going into the Preakness as we did it for the Derby. But interesting news this morning, like you said about Muth scratching out of the race, the morning line favorite. Honestly, other than killing the prices on the other horses, because he would have been a favorite, and I think he probably would have been a significant favorite over Mystic Dan, I don't really think it changes the complexion of the race much. I don't really think it changes the pace really at all. It just kind of takes that horse out of the race and, like I said, hurts the price on everyone else.
Totally. So now it's a field of 8. There's the weather so far. It looks like it's 70% chances of raining. It seems to be the perfect conditions for Mystic Dan.
It does. That seems to be, kind of what he wants. There's some other horses that have run really well over and off track. Uncle Heavy is 2 for 2 over and off track. So he's one that you certainly maybe would want to pay attention to for some of those exotics. It'll be new for a couple other horses. Imagination for Bob Baffert, and then Tuscan Gold, another key contender in this race. Neither of them have ran into kind of anything other than fast ground. So I definitely think it's going to be interesting for horses kind of like that it's never happened with, but there's certainly a couple others outside of Mystic Dan that have seen conditions like this and that it's shown it doesn't bother.
What's your analysis of what do you think is going to be the outcome of the Preakness Stakes, Kaitlin?
Well, with Muth in the race, I thought he was by far the more interesting of the two Baffert horses. That's no surprise. I don't rank Imagination all that highly. And even with the stablemate out of the race, I still don't. But I do think Imagination will play a key role in this race because I think he is going to be so forwardly placed. I don't think he's lone speed in this race. Maybe like a couple of people think that he is. I think there's a chance that Seize the Gray is going to be incredibly forwardly placed. That's kind of been his running style in the past. He was just off the pace when he won the Pat Day Mile a couple of weeks ago, and he even took a bump or so in that race, but he was able to outkick Nash. And I also think that especially if it's a little bit more of a softer type of surface or there's a little bit of moisture in the ground, that Mystic Dan is going to be forward. He's shown that he can be very forward. He just didn't have to be in the Derby, but he was still very, very close to the pace. He was really the only horse left out of everyone else other than Catching Freedom just behind him that kind of survived being close to the upfront. So I think it's really going to be those 3 horses, and then you're going to kind of have a little bit more of a mid-pack type of section. I think you'll probably find Just Steel in that area, as well as Catching Freedom. You'll probably also find Tuscan Gold in there. And then you're going to have your closers, which is going to be Uncle Heavy and Mugatu. So I think that's the way the field is going to kind of shake out.
And getting to the finish line, if we ask Kaitlin Free, what's going to be the trifecta? You already did it for the Kentucky Derby. We needed to see what's your prediction for the Preakness Stakes to see if you become a double crown.
So I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. And I kind of have some different thoughts when it comes to the Preakness versus the way I did about the Derby. Although I kind of see the pace being a little bit softer. It's definitely going to be moderate. I don't think it's going to be hot, but I think it's going to be a moderate type of a pace. I still can't see Imagination being able to go wire to wire in the spot. I just don't really see that happening. So I'm looking for a horse that's going to be kind of in that second or third flight type of ground just outside of him, who I think will be the horse on the front end. So when it comes to the horse that I think really can win this race, I'm looking for a horse that is a little bit fresh coming into this race. That is going to be Tuscan Gold for trainer Chad Brown. I think this horse continues to improve with each and every start. He didn't have He didn't bring his maiden when he was a 2-year-old, but he did have a decent run where he finished 3 lengths beaten behind Sierra Leone. Then his first start as a 3-year-old at Gulfstream Park, he ended up breaking his maiden really impressively. Then we saw him in the Louisiana Derby, where I thought he ran really, really well behind Catching Freedom. He's had a little bit of a breather since, but we've seen horses that have had maybe points to go into the Kentucky Derby or could have been one of the also eligibles, skip the Derby and then go on to win the Preakness. Chad Brown has done it a couple of times. He did it with Cloud Computing and another horse whose name is slipping my mind, who did it just a couple of years ago. Ron Bauer.
Early voting.
Yes.
Early voting. Yeah.
Yes. And then Ron Bauer also did the same thing. So they showed that they were Derby caliber horses. They just maybe elected to skip that race and go on to the Preakness. This has proven a strategy to win. I think this horse is going to be able to get a really, really good trip. He is going to have to jump up if he's going to beat the likes of Mystic Dan. But without Muth in this race, I think his chances significantly get a little bit higher if maybe Mystic Dan is a little bit winded coming out of the Kentucky Derby. But I think the conditions are going to be right for Mystic Dan to run really well. I think he's absolutely going to hit the board in this race, if not win the race. But really, it's going to be between those two. But I'm going to give the edge to Tuscan Gold, being a little bit fresh coming in. And then if I had to throw a horse in just behind the two of them, his chances, I think, of winning the race are not quite as good because I don't think the pace is going to be extremely legitimate here in this race. But this is a horse that I think can continue to get better. And also, I think Way is elevated if we do have an off track, and that's Uncle Heavy for Butch Reed. Irad Ortiz is going to be aboard for the first time. One thing that I will say about this horse is he wants to go farther than this, probably in the Preakness distance. So if he was able to get a really hot pace in this race, I think he could be a chance to maybe spring the upset. I don't think he's going to be able to get a hot pace, but I do think there's a good chance that he's going to be one of the horses that are finishing best in here. And it's because he is a distance type of a horse. He's a big, boxy, tall type of a horse that makes up a lot of ground. So I think distance is his friend, and I think you can really elevate his chances of finishing in the Super or finishing in the Tri if we do get an off track.
There you go. We have now the prediction of Kaitlin Free for the Preakness Stakes this year. Tuscan Gold, it kind of in the edge to be the winner. Mystic Dan right near to Tuscan Gold, and to get the exotics and the good money, Uncle Heavy.
Yep, that seems it to me. And if you want to throw another one in for the Super, maybe Imagination's going to stick around. Potentially Just Steel could come in there and run well. Picking up some of those pieces, but really those three for me are the ones that I've been looking at. And even with Muth in the race, I still like those three no matter what.
Well, thank you very much, Kaitlin. We are, I'm pretty sure that all the followers and your fans are going to appreciate this analysis. And let's see what happens. Let's see what happens this Saturday. Let's keep the fingers crossed. If Mystic Dan wins, it will be a nice dream for both Kenny McPeak and Brian Hernandez, not just to get their first Derby win, but just dreaming on a chance for a Triple Crown winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Would be so cool to see. I know it would be really, really popular for everyone here in Louisville, and just the story that they have already carried, and the story just of Mystic Dan, his ownership group, and everyone. So I wish them all the best, and they have a great chance.
Thank you very much, Kaitlin, and I wish you all the best and best of luck to everyone. Happy Preakness Week.